So this is a little bit of overview of relations. I'll not go into deep. I think you are all, but I think I wanted to give what is the historical point of distrust. There are three areas that happened for those who, the U-2 base in the 1960s was the beginning, and that was where the Russians literally threatened Pakistan. Then President Nixon's strategic somersault in 71, which was facilitated by the Pakistanis through Henry Kissinger's secret visits to Pakistan. And many people didn't know, but Pakistanis noted that very month, within a month of that visit of Dr. Kissinger through Pakistan, Soviet Union signed a deal with India the very next month. And it was that treaty, 6 months later, they defeated Pakistan in Bangladesh and created that. In Pakistan memory, Soviet Union helped India to dismember Pakistan. 10 years later, after the Afghan war, Pakistan helped the United States to dismember Soviet Union. So both countries have actually helped dismembering each other in the Cold War. And that memory is stuck into the countries of both. So now you can see that any attempt to improve relations in Cold War, and again, this was something strange, if you can help me with that. And I'm personally witness to this. In the mid-90s, the Russian generals, Russian contractors would come with a lot of sales to Pakistan. We would agree on certain things, but the moment the delegation would go back to Moscow, we'll never hear back from them. They just disappear. And that continued to happen for a long time, that they thought, are they credible people or not? But actually the backbone was the US-India nuclear deal in 2008. But I think the Pakistanis were deeply disappointed. And that deal, as you probably all know, that the Russians were the ones who gained maximum out of the US-India deal. And how much US has gained, you probably are well aware. And that's where the disappointment began. And you will notice that the change between the delegation between Pakistan and Russia begins after this Hyde Act deal. You will see that the timelines begin somewhere for the last 7 or 8 years. I'll not go really into the details, but I think some of the important visits are, in 2012, the Pakistan Army Chief visits Moscow and requests for defense equipment. And I think it's an important point to make here. Until that point, Russia had an arms embargo over sales on Pakistan. Or if any sales to Pakistan would be done, New Delhi had to say yes or no. Had almost a veto over Moscow sales to Pakistan. And this is also the time when the Pakistanis were begging the United States for, kind of helicopters and other, to fight against, the war in Afghanistan. But the United States would defer to India's sensibilities and not give anything to Pakistan because of fearing that that equipment might be used against India instead of in Afghanistan. Russia changed that and gave them the Mi-35 helicopters, which the US could not give them. I think that was a big change at the time. And you will see that then the Russian defense minister signs in 2 years' time the defense cooperation agreement. The next army chief visits in 2015, 3 successive chiefs visit there, and this is, you can see how joint exercises begin to happen. More lately, last 1 year. You see much more closer cooperation happening between the two countries. Pakistan Army Chief General Bajwa visits in 2018. The National Security Advisors visit. SPD officers accompanying. They were all seen in photographs and pictures all along. It was not anything secret. It was publicly shown what was going on at the time. And that's where some agreements were made. Not just on that, many exercises were done. And then the meeting of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It's a huge deal for Pakistan and India both to be together. What Russian and the Chinese did was allow India and Pakistan to simultaneously join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, whereas one was opposing the other at the time. The Chinese wanted Pakistan in, the Russians wanted the Indians in. Chinese were skeptical of India, Russia was skeptical of Pakistan. They both decided that both of them come together. And that was a big deal for them because Pakistanis were looking for a forum where they could be seen really doing something on the mandate of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, namely extremism, separatism, and what was the third one? Terrorism. Now, Pakistan and India cooperating at the time when Russia and China provided Pakistan the space, whereas India's whole strategy was to beat up on Pakistan as the country which is hub of terrorism, is now doing counter-terrorism exercises alongside with India, actually brought a huge deal of diplomatic advantage to Pakistan, which Russia provided the space. And that was a big deal for the Pakistanis to go into this whole thing. And of course, now as lately, Russia participated just about this very month in the naval exercises. A lot more exchanges are going on the naval side as well.